Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Movies by McManus podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies, comics, TV, books, in the context of who created it and what effect it's trying to have on the world. I'm your host, Greg. With me, as always, is my brother, Mike.
As always.
And today we're going to be talking about the 2019 movie Midsommar, directed by Ari Aster. Now, before we get into any of our thoughts or opinions or anything, I want to just briefly talk about basically the premise of the movie, just so we have a summary before we get into anything.
Go for it.
So the protagonist is Dani, played by Florence Pugh, who Florence Pugh is out of new actresses is one of my favorites of actresses who've really only been in the mainstream popularity of the last 2 years. She's one of my favorites. So Dani's entire family is killed in a murder-suicide by her sister, who clearly has some psychological issues. It's kind of mentioned towards the beginning of the film. And after that, her boyfriend, Christian, who was planning on breaking up with her, they kind of have a loveless relationship, stays with Dani out of a sense of obligation of, I can't really break up with this girl because, her entire family just died, and it's out of obligation to make her feel better. But he clearly does want out, and he doesn't even seem all that upset about it, about her family dying. So she finds out that he's made this plan to go to Sweden to
this guy sucks. Let's be honest.
And he sucks.
He just sucks.
And he's the worst. And he kind of has made plans to go to Sweden that he never told her about. He's with his anthropologist friends, and they're going to basically have their college thesis, their PhD thesis, and
also
they're doing
it's like a bros trip.
And it's like a bros trip because one of the guys is not an anthropologist. He's kind of just there, along for the ride to try to bang Swedish women, basically.
Right.
And they're in this village that it's called the Horga. And then the movie gets really weird. Not that it wasn't weird to start, but it gets really weird where you see this Horga village where everything is really different than what we believe in. And there's something that...
Very cultish.
Very cultish, but something that I notice is the comparison of how much togetherness there is in the Horga people and how much isolation and separation there is in the secular world. Mm-hmm. So they basically find out that they're there to be sacrificed of this midsummer tradition where they would basically sacrifice outsiders to try to bless their crops.
Yeah, I mean that's not really. I think you're oversimplifying a little bit. That ends up being revealed maybe at the midway point of the movie, but it's not clear from the beginning.
It is not clear from the beginning, and it's very much slowly. And if you're paying attention, you clearly see these people,
wrong.
There's something's wrong. And in the end, while the rest of the group is kind of sacrificed, Dani is actually honored and embraced by the Horga people. And she wins this competition where she's nominated as what's called the May Queen. Mm-hmm. And the ending shot is basically her watching her boyfriend and the corpses of her former friends burning in this house in the sacrifice, and her smiling. And it's framed as a triumph for Dani.
Right.
It's framed as almost revenge on this terrible boyfriend that she had, and these people who she was with who do not care about her, who do not want her there. And now she's being embraced by this community that love her and do want her there. And I don't want to say the movie is pro-cult, because it definitely isn't, but it is that two extremes of, and you could see why someone in Dani's position who really has no one would join a cult.
Which is always it's always the most vulnerable
Yes.
people who are joining cults. Yeah, it's kind of a backwards theme of, hey, join us and, be one with us. But it's also kind of it's not like she chose any of this, you know. It was like kind of forced upon her to become this May Queen, and forced upon you know, the other guys in the group to be sacrificed. So it's very much like kind of, it's got these heavy religious themes, heavy cult themes. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what the main point of this movie is, to be honest.
I do. Here's what I think. He's talking about relationships. Said, Ari Aster has said that this is a breakup movie, that he says this is a movie he wants people to watch after they just gone through a breakup, because it is, while, you know, a cult is an extreme scenario, that is kind of what we want from a significant other. Of like, I don't want you to comfort me out of obligation. I want you. It sounds almost selfish to say, but it's not.
Yeah.
If I'm upset, I want my partner to be upset with me.
Well, I think that's like super. That's a totally fucked up thing to want.
Not so much want, but
that's like codependent, like real creepy shit. But I do understand like the idea of if you have a significant other, or even with family, where this idea of like being one with the family, or you know, if someone's sad, not necessarily being sad as well, but at least being there for them. Yeah. That's the comfort of a relationship and the comfort of family. So this is just kind of an extreme version of that. And then the whole I don't know. I had a little trouble with this one. You know, I get from the perspective of, it's like, you know, just the shock value and everything like that. But I don't know. I didn't feel like it was, I don't know if we want to get right into it, but, and I always feel like I'm kind of the Debbie Downer of the podcast, but I didn't feel like the movie was really that amazing.
I found that interesting, because after we watched it, you were kind of like saying that, and you are actually the first person who has said that they don't like this movie to me.
I don't know that I don't like it. It's fine. I don't see myself going back to watch it unless to show someone and just see their reaction. But again, you got to understand, like, I'm in my 30s now. Maybe when I'm serious. Like, if I was 22, maybe I'd be like, yo, this movie's sick. But like, I've seen a lot of shit. Yeah. Even not just movies wise, but just life wise. Like, I've seen a lot of things, and I feel like it's missing the mark a little bit. Like, it's trying to be, it's a little too over the top, where it's like, if they went a little more subtle, it could have been more powerful.
Yeah, I see what you say, and when it comes to like the shock value of everything, this movie is extremely gruesome. There are a lot of very just gory scenes, which I feel very much take away from the movie.
That's what I'm saying.
I feel like it 100% takes away from it. If it wasn't for all the blood and guts, I would definitely like this movie a lot better.
If they showed the falling, the first real piece of violence that you see in the film, if they showed that in a more cinematic, like creepy way, I think it could have been more powerful. And maybe like a suggestion of the brutality. Or I just feel like it almost became horror movie-esque in a sense. Not to knock on horror movies, I love horror movies, but what am I thinking of?
Are you thinking of Cannibal Holocaust?
No, when we did The
Five Bloods?
No. What's the movie we did with McConaughey?
The Beach Bum?
When we did, remember the scene where Martin Lawrence loses his leg to the shark?
Yes.
But you accepted it in the context of that movie because it's such a, you're just having fun, hopefully getting stoned and just having a good time watching it, and you're like, oh, that's so fake. Like, yeah. But like with this, when they're beating him in the face with the sledgehammer, it's
a lot, and it does take away from the movie. The two death scenes that are kind of, to me, stick in my mind the most out of this movie are the two most. One of them is not so subtle. One of them is. It's not the really gory ones. It's the beginning scene when you see her family has been killed.
That was a little more subtle, but also
it sticks in your head, I feel.
It's also not clear what happened.
It's not very clear what happens. No. And I don't know if that was purposeful or not.
I would imagine. I mean, she had something attached to her mouth.
Basically, she had put tubes to the cars, to their exhaust, and then put them up the stairs, and then had one into her parents' room and one into her mouth. Mm-hmm. And there's a shot of her with the tube taped to her mouth that it really sticks with you. And I feel like that shot right there, it's early enough and it's kind of shocking enough that it leaves you for the rest of the movie, that you don't need enough for the rest of the movie of like, I get that the shock value is there to unsettle you.
Yeah.
I feel like that one shot is unsettling enough to just leave you for the rest of the movie. And I feel like the scene, especially when they're like tearing apart the old man's head after he tries to kill himself, it is just especially unnecessary. I don't really think it adds a lot to the movie. Having said that, like, I do love this movie and I think it's great.
I just think it's like the fake deep shit. Like, I just feel like we're running into this a little bit with a couple of these movies that we've been doing, where it's like, again, if I was like maybe in college or something and like, you know, didn't have all that much life experience, I'd be like, yo, you gotta see this movie. It's fucking symbolizes relationships and like it's, you know, and it's just like now I'm like, like whatever.
All right, you know what? I do.
As I'm dying. It's our first coffee.
I do feel like I like the relationship aspect. How she
I like it too. I like the concept. I didn't think the execution was what it could be. You know.
And the other death scene that I wanted to say was William Jackson Harper, who's the other anthropologist who you see him get hit in the head, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When they run out into the field and you just see his leg, like in that I thought was really great. And like subtle things like that could have made the other death scenes better.
See, I don't know. I thought that was totally silly.
Really?
Sure. Well, I mean, it looked like a Halloween prop.
Okay. I thought that it was very you
Look,
didn't really.
I respect.
All right.
It's not that I hate this movie. You know what I mean? I just, when things have potential, I'm just like, I wish they realized it in a better way. You know, that's me. I don't know. I'm like kind of a high mark for shit. I don't know. Maybe I need to work on that and just like enjoy shit. I just feel like listen, I respect that this movie got made. I mean, A24 is like super awesome. So, you know, you obviously can speak more on them than I can, but I know they did Uncut Gems and
they do a lot of smaller movies.
Yeah, so I appreciate that this
and
movie
they also
got made.
have like just a very good track record with smaller movies that are able to make money. That might because there actually might be like a few failures in there, but they're known for just their smaller budget. And what's great with about A24 is that like they're really able to take more risks.
Yeah,
because they're smaller budget.
It was definitely a risk. Like, I'd rather fucking watch this than Zac Efron or some shit. Like, in a break, if this is a breakup movie, I'll take it. Like, if this is a rom-com, it's the wrong term,
but I mean, this with another studio like wouldn't have gotten made, or at least not in the way that
you wouldn't
it
have
was.
even gotten out of a meeting.
Yeah,
you know, they would have
something like Uncut Gems, if it wasn't A24, wouldn't have really gotten made. I mean,
right. I mean, maybe like Netflix or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I like this movie. The kind of group panic attack scene I really like, and I really do think like it's a good contrast of like you see her have a panic attack a few times before in the movie.
What scene are you talking about exactly?
So the scene at the end when she sees her boyfriend cheating on her, and she goes off.
Yeah. That was cool.
Because you've seen her have panic attacks a few times throughout the movie, and she runs off to be by herself to do it. Mm-hmm. And then this one, just contrasting the horde of people to how like, secular society acts, is like they decide instead of letting you be alone, we're going to have kind of a group panic attack together.
Yeah, I saw that as more just like, they have chosen this our protagonist to be the queen, whatever the fuck. And they're just I almost saw it as like it wasn't genuine. It was just like, hey, this is what's going on. Go, like, be a part of it. And then it just seems like it was a setup. Like, you're gonna be this person. We're gonna get you to procreate with this one. So like whatever weird fucking Ponzi scheme with humans we're running, we're gonna keep going, and then we're gonna kill you, and we're gonna sacrifice your friends.
I like the Ponzi scheme with humans.
Yeah, I mean, like, whatever the fuck they're running, like,
So I didn't really pick up on this until the second time that I watched it. Right. The competition she wins at the end was clearly rigged, like, for her to win, which I didn't really get at the end. It's this dance competition where basically they're supposed to do this dance that's they take a bunch of hallucinogenics and they're supposed to do this dance.
And they drink that little liquid thing.
Yeah, and basically it's a dance that it starts and stops, so it's very easy to fall over. And the first time I saw it, I thought like she legitimately had won. And then the second time I watched it, I was just like, oh, they're letting her win because they want her to be the May Queen, because they've kind of been grooming her to become part of this cult since the beginning.
I also thought, like, I felt bad for, like, European people. I was just like, are they going to be like, man, like, you guys made us like these fucking weirdo.
I should say something about that.
Sure.
So the Midsommar festival in general, I like the idea of, like, the actual one, not the one that they do in the movie. It's a real thing in Sweden. It's a real place in a lot of, like,
shout out to
northern
Sweden.
Europe.
I'm sure you guys are awesome.
It's a real festival. And I do like kind of these, like, ancient holidays that are still around. Like, it was an old school pagan holiday that they just kept even through, like, Christianity kind of taking over.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was so it's based on a real thing. That's cool.
Yeah. But so Sweden has a lot of, like, tourism because of Midsommar, and they were worried that like this movie was going to, like, damage them. And they said something of even in ancient times, like, there has never been a recorded human sacrifice during Midsommar.
That's a weird thing to brag about.
No, I know, but this is a movie about humans.
Guys, we've never even sacrificed one person at the festival. Cool, man. By the way, you're not supposed to, but good on you. Just seems like a weird thing. I've never even killed anybody. Okay, Carl. Anything else to add?
Well, all right. They were worried it was going to, like, distract from tourism.
Yeah.
Because Midsommar is, like, a big draw to, like, Sweden. And a lot of, like, the stuff that they actually did get right, like those dresses that they wear with, like, the ruins in them are, like, actually, like, the ancient alphabet. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those kind of figures that they have in the ground, those, like, kind of pole with the trees all around them, the flower crowns are, like, realistic. And I don't know. I'm surprised that you didn't like this movie. Like,
again, it's not that it's like, if we're doing this show, which we are, like, I'm gonna be honest about I'm just some fucking schmuck. Yeah. Like, I'm not a film person. Like, that's the whole show. Like, you're in the industry, you're actually know what you're talking about. I don't. So I'm given that side of it. But having said that, I like fucked up things. Don't get me wrong. But, like, it's a cool. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad they made it. So I really am. I'm glad they made it. I think it's cool. I think it's pretty, like, sick. I don't regret watching it. I think it was, like, I would definitely, like, definitely watch it. Check it out. It's, like, pretty fucked up and cool. Having said that, like, if we're going to discuss it, which we're doing, I definitely have some things where, I would have wished they did a little differently, because because, again, it has potential. Like, it's really a cool idea. There's just a couple of things that kind of
So Ari Aster, he has another movie that kind of has the same problem, I think, called Hereditary. But with Hereditary, the violence is more the center focus of it, which is why Hereditary was a movie that a lot of people like. I didn't like it because I felt with Midsommar, while I could have done without the hyper violence, I thought it took away from the movie. I didn't think it took away so much that I didn't like the movie anymore.
No, it doesn't.
While with Hereditary, the graphic shots and the just brutality of Hereditary is enough to just make you dislike the entire movie.
So now this is making sense because I was talking to a friend and I was like, oh, I just saw Midsommar, and he was like, I liked Hereditary a lot better. And I was like, okay.
A lot of people liked Hereditary a lot better. I did not. Like I said, just like the cultural aspect of Midsommar, like I like these idea of kind of these ancient holidays.
Yeah.
I was always just like interested in kind of like pagan religions altogether.
Yeah,
kind of like a more in touch with nature. And a lot of this movie is kind of, it's human togetherness, but it's also like togetherness with nature, where they're very much just like take hallucinogenics, and like you see Dani when she is high on psychedelics, she feels like kind of leaves going inside of her.
See, I find
and she's growing. You weren't.
I find it interesting that you're interested in that, but you've never partaken in that stuff.
I'm interested
I
in
have
it as a
partaken
film.
in that stuff. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've done it in real life. You haven't.
I'll say, I'm interested in it as an anthropologist, as someone like looking from the outside. Well, here's another
what's
thing.
What's more of an anthropological dig?
Here's another
Go on an
thing
anthropological
about,
dig.
Here's another thing about the characters. When I say it's very obvious from the beginning that this village is going to do something fucked up.
Oh, yeah, for
It's
sure.
very obvious from the beginning. And the characters kind of being anthropologists, of seeing these people not even really as people, as just subjects to be studied. I think
there's a very and that bothered me too.
One when you're talking about, human isolation in the like secular world, you're not together with your emotions versus them. It's a further step of isolation of them from these people.
Yeah, and they make that point really clear with like the wardrobe choices. Like there's so many shots of everyone in white robes, and you see them just sticking out like fucking eyesores.
Yeah. And I feel like the reason they do not sense the danger is because they have this feeling of, this is happening to you guys. We're over here.
Right.
And it's that, and it's a disrespect of the culture. Like you see Will Porter's character, who's there, kind of like, he says like, I just want to get fucked up and bang Swedish girls.
He's like the McLovin of the group.
He is kind of the McLovin of the group. And you see like...
It's kind of a dated reference now.
That is a dated reference.
Isn't that interesting?
That's weird. What movie?
You never would have thought that.
What year? No, I know, but that was like 2008, 2007.
Yeah.
People are not going to get the McLovin reference.
They better be.
They should. But there's one. Neither of these people, while they're viewing them from different ways, they don't see this Horga village as like being people. Just one, something to be studied, or two, like something to fuck around with.
And you know what? I just like, it's so perfect that like I'm blanking on his name because he was so unremarkable, but the boyfriend.
His name's Christian.
Yeah, like
the actor is Jack Rayner, I believe his name is.
He did a fine job, the actor. I don't think it was a great performance. I don't think it was a bad performance.
I think you get exactly, you understand this person perfectly.
Exactly.
He's in a relationship he does not want to be in, and
probably
he can't leave out of like a sense of obligation.
It probably is a good performance then, because I was so like unimpressed with him as a person, but that's kind of the idea.
You hate this guy, and that's why leading into like, this is a triumph for Dani, of it is a revenge, and you don't feel bad for this guy at all, because
I also don't really feel bad for her, to be honest, because, and maybe this is like mean, but I feel like I know like both of these people, you know what I mean? And it's just like like you're the fucking schmuck who like stands for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, it's so perfect that he's like, I think I'm gonna do my thesis on this too. And it's like, of course, because you don't have one original thought.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have the first inkling of creativity.
Yeah.
But also on her side, it's just like, I feel like I know this person too. And it's just like, and granted, she went through a horrible tragedy, but obviously what she went through is like a plot piece. I'm just saying this person who's just like, you know, just like falling apart all the time. And you're like, you're falling apart all the time. Like, you don't even have like, you're not even, you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
You're just constantly a mess. Like, how are you constantly a mess?
And I know what you mean because
I understand if you're a mess 6 out of 7 days.
You're showing two extremes of the situation.
Exactly.
And this Swedish cult, you know, Swedish people and even kind of like people who, you know, are in tight-knit communities aren't really like that.
Of
like
course.
you're not all sharing your feelings together, and like if someone's in pain, you all scream with it. Like, but then also like real life isn't so separated. Like people talk about their feelings all the time, and it isn't so separated as the movie explains, but you are showing two different extremes, and you are showing the type of person who would join a cult. Of what I'm talking about,
for sure.
Dani, and I didn't even like really pick up on this until like the second time I watched it, was that Dani clearly was like targeted from the beginning. The character Pella, who like kind of is their guide into the Harga village, who like he was at school with them,
and then he starts kind of like putting the fucking Swedish dick on. He like, tries what about this Swedish fish? You know what I'm saying?
Boy, you see that in a different light, thinking of they're trying to recruit her, because he has this line of, he says to her, out of everybody who is coming, you were the person I was most excited for.
Oh God, what a line! Like, I'm really happy you came to the party. I don't know what accent that is, but just like I'm really happy you're here. Like,
and they're
like, bro, you're a rapist. Like, I don't trust you.
Well, you don't trust him, and you shouldn't. He's trying to get her to join a cult.
For sure. I just mean like that.
There's a lot of cult mentality. So like, there's another thing that I noticed. It's a term called love bombing. That when someone is in the cult and they kind of want to leave, that the members kind of get around and they like shower them with compliments, and they like say like, we're your family and we're the people who trust you, and those people over there, they don't trust you. Like they don't want to be with you. Like you belong with us. And he kind of does that to her. He's very much trying to separate her from her boyfriend, because
he draws her that fucking stupid picture.
He draws her
just keep this between us.
A picture. He says like, I forget the exact line, but it's something just like, yeah, he's with you, he's there for you, but like, do you feel connected to him, or like it was something like that. And I feel like
if you talk like that, kill yourself.
I feel like it's very much, they have this idea of, if we can separate her from her boyfriend, then she is ours.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
And you know, it worked. But again, like that's like what cults do. I mean, if you look at like the Scientology or
it separate you from everybody around, and they target people who are kind of at the low point of their life. I feel like that's like, especially with like Waco, Texas, with the cult there.
Yeah. Really all of them.
Or all of them, really. But a lot of them, they weren't dumb people. They were highly educated. They were smart. But David Koresh was able to find them at their low point.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be quote unquote stupid. I mean, a lot of these people are pretty intelligent. You could just find like, some people can manipulate an emotional, I don't even want to call it a weakness, like just an emotional opportunity. Yeah. You know, like, what's the sex cult recently? I'm blanking on it. The guy up in like Buffalo or something like that. Oh, geez.
I have no idea.
It was some really strange. It was basically like a multi-marketing, like essentially a Ponzi scheme business, but then there was also like a sex cult element of it.
And it was in Buffalo?
It was super recent. Like the guy, I need to actually look this up because this is going to bother me. But the guy like got recently in trouble for it. Anyway, carry on as I look this up.
Well, it's very much they find you at your low point, and it's separate you from the rest of society. And, you know, it does have kind of this triumphant ending. I think it's more...
NXIVM. Yeah, NXIVM. There was that
I have never heard of this.
Allison Mack, who's like from Smallville or whatever. She was an actress.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it's like that's cult shit 101.
Yeah. So, and this movie also has like a lot of similarities to another cult movie called The Wicker Man that came out in the 70s. It came out in the 70s, and it was also like remade in like the early 2000s with Nicolas Cage, but like it's
I'm
trash.
not gonna lie, that's the one I was thinking of.
The one with Nicolas Cage, it kind of has the same ideas.
Wait,
but
are you saying a Nicolas Cage movie was whack?
The Nicolas Cage version has like a weird anti-feminist twist to it. Because they change it that like the cult is basically all run by women, and that the men are like subjugated and they can't speak and everything. And you have like this feeling of like, this is what happened if fucking women were in charge. And Nicolas Cage like punches an old lady out at one point, and it's trash. But the original one with...
How about The Weatherman? Remember that?
I remember The Weatherman was just dumb.
I loved it.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought it was just boring.
I mean, it's like horrible. But,
Yeah.
You know,
it's a bad movie.
I mean, he's not good. He's a weird dude.
He's not good, and I really think his Oscar was a fluke, and I do not think he's good. I love kind of his movies.
I remember City of Angels.
There's a movie that just came out.
The Goo Goo Dolls.
There's a movie that just came out called The Color Out of Space
with Nick Cage.
And it's real fucking weird.
Is it?
It's real fucking weird. I don't want to get on Nick Cage. Let's get back to.
Right.
We went on a weird Nick Cage rant.
I tried, folks.
The original Wicker Man is with Christopher Lee, and it's about this island off the coast of like England, and basically a girl goes missing, and this cop comes there to find this detective comes there to find the girl, and the detective is super Christian and is just like everything is Jesus, and everything that's everyone who hasn't been baptized is going to hell, and this cult kind of runs the island, and it's very similar to like a Midsommar type cult.
Right.
They're run by the guy who plays the leader is Christopher Lee, who I'm not sure if you know. He was in like Lord of the Rings, and he's been in like a lot of like 70s really cheesy horror movies. He was in The Howling 2.
I think we watched that.
That's the Your Sister's a Werewolf movie. He's the guy that says that line. But you see this detective coming in, and he's like super Christian, and there's this pagan cult, and he kind of like hates them and scolds them, saying like, you're not teaching these children the truth of Jesus. And he finds out that there actually was no missing girl, that he's been lured there because he's the human sacrifice, and he's burned alive, similar to Midsommar. And I see clear like similarities between the two movie of like these are two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Of
the uptight Christian and like the worry-free pagans who, you know, are just having fun and tripping out. And
see, I didn't take them as like worry-free tripping out. I took them as like essentially kind of like slaves or just mindless sheep.
There is, and when I say like this movie clearly isn't pro-cult, you see that like a lot of the people actually are not happy there. That even when they do have this kind of group togetherness of we're all sharing our emotions, like clearly some of them are like not okay with it. Like this.
Well, there's no individuality.
Yeah,
you know, it's all
like the scene where the two older Horga people, the man and the woman, are supposed to kill themselves because they've turned 72.
Right.
And it kind of lingers on both their face when they're having their final dinner. And like, you kind of know what happens. The characters don't really know what's going on, but you know what happens. And like, clearly they're terrified. And
yeah, I thought that kind of too, but I wouldn't say like clearly they're terrified, but I would say the thought lingers in your mind, like, are they so like amped to kind of like, take part in this sacrifice? Like,
it's almost like they do not want to do this, but they've been conditioned since they were born that this is what has to happen.
Yeah.
And it's very much of, this idea of group togetherness, at least in that cult, is kind of a lie. I mean, they are able to get Dani in with just this bullshit, but it is a lie. And you need individuality. Like, you can't this group togetherness of like, we're all sad at the same time, we're all happy at the same time, we do everything at the same time, we're never alone. You can't have that. But you can't have the other way either, of just thinking that every time someone is upset, it's because they're overreacting or they're looking for attention, like how Christian says with Dani's sister, who's reaching out for help and clearly mentally unwell and clearly suicidal. Yeah. And I also do not think it's an accident that the boyfriend's character's name is Christian.
Yeah, of course. Because, I mean, nothing is really an accident.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you could speak to that, like, right? Like,
do
you find, I mean, obviously you're involved with constructing sets, like, everything is thought out, right? Like, there's no misplaced flower on a table.
And you see when you first enter the Horga village, when you first see it on camera, the first building that you see is slanted.
Okay. And
it's kind of mismatched. It almost looks Burton-esque, but it does Burton-esque. Like kind of Tim Burton-y.
Tim Burton, okay.
Yeah. But it does kind of give you the sense of we are on this opposite world now. Mm-hmm. And when they're first driving into Sweden in their car, the camera kind of does this thing where it turns upside down on the road.
Yeah, I like that a lot. There's a lot of cool
There's a lot of really cool shots. This movie looks beautiful.
It does.
Whether you think it's trying too hard to be deep, this movie is shot beautifully.
It is.
And just the clothing,
the color,
the set dressing is amazing.
It is.
Even in the beginning shots, I mean, the beginning scenes when you're in like this secular world, mm-hmm. and everything is kind of dark, it's toned down.
Very.
And I had mentioned in my breakdown that a lot of the conversations are done through mirrors.
Yes, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
There's that one conversation where they're speaking in her room, and you see Christian just through a mirror.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, you're talking about two people who mentally and emotionally are separated, so you physically separate them in the shot. So you put, there's literally a barrier in
this is
them.
like what you pay for, even though this show's free. It's like that type of insight.
And then when she's talking with his friends, you see they're all sitting down, there's a mirror there, and she's in the mirror, and there is a break in between them.
Yeah, that's cool. I also liked, I don't know what the significance of it was, but I just personally found it to be pleasurable on the eyes, is when, I guess, the guy who's leading them to Sweden, their friend who's also in the secular world, but he's also part of the cult, he happens to bring up to our protagonist that he also lost his parents. So she starts crying, and she runs into the bathroom, and as she's closing the door in the bathroom, she's also, we're brought to the next scene. It transitions to the bathroom of the plane.
Yeah.
That shot was awesome.
That shot kind of does two things. One, you're moving the story along faster.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially a transition.
You're moving the story along faster in a very cool way, and you're also showing that she's leaving to go to the bathroom to have a panic attack.
Yes.
And then it cuts to her on the airplane having a panic attack.
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of leads up that this is a regular occurrence for her.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a shot that I'll bring up of kind of just like transition. You don't have to see everything that happened in between them deciding to go to Sweden and them being on the plane.
Yeah,
Something that I brought up was a shot in the movie Lawrence of Arabia. Mm-hmm. There's a scene when he's talking. He's in England, and he decides that he's going to go to Saudi Arabia, to the desert, and he lights a match and he blows it out. And once he blows it out, you're in the desert.
Right.
And originally they had shot like a few scenes of him, getting on train, then getting on a bus, then driving into the desert. And then they decided to cut that all out, and it's just a quick transition from him and then into the desert. Because all that stuff is not important to the story, And it even makes it better that the conversation that Christian is having with his friends before that kind of bathroom scene, he's saying like, yes, I invited her and she said she was coming, but she's not coming because I know.
Yeah, exactly. You know that she's coming though.
You know that she's coming, but he believes that she's going to change her mind. And
I think he believes she's not really going to accept he feels like he did it out of, being nice.
Yeah.
Much like the reason for being in the relationship anyway. And he never really thinks that she's going to take them up on the offer.
Yeah. So the grade of just cutting from that conversation to she's on the plane. Mm-hmm. And she didn't change her mind.
No.
Yeah. I like kind of the setup of all the panic attacks that she has. Because it does pay it off at the end. Like, I know and maybe it is hokey, and maybe like they knew she was prone to panic attacks, the Horga people, and that's why they kind of set this up. But it's very much you see her going off alone to kind of panic and suffocate and hyperventilate.
What's the MO of this group though? That's what I feel is never sort of explained. Like, is it just to kind of like reinvent itself with fresh blood? Like, what is there? What's the motivation to not kill off our protagonist? Like, what's the motivation to make her this queen? And I understand
they might be trying to get her pregnant.
Yeah,
that might be Pella's job. Clearly, like, Pella is trying to seduce her. Uh-huh. So maybe that's kind of what they're in, that they're tight knit and they need people to come in. People aren't always willing, so this is kind of their way of doing it. It could be that she's becoming the May Queen because like they can't just have sex with her and kill her off. She's like they do with Christian because she has to carry the baby. So maybe the only option for women is to make them join the cult. And maybe like Pella was kind of chosen to be the father of her baby.
Which one is Pella again?
Pella is the guy who he's their friend in college who leads them. Yeah. And it could even be just like they knew she was prone to panic attacks, so they knew that this would work. That she's almost tricked into seeing her boyfriend cheat on her. Like you hear loud moaning from like the house where they're having sex.
Yeah.
And she looks over and the other woman just goes, "That's not for us." But they don't really like stop her from doing it. She goes,
"No, well they want to destroy that relationship."
They clearly do. Maybe they knew like this was going to trigger a panic attack from her, and now they could grab her and kind of have this group kind of emotion together.
Yeah. That
they knew would draw her in.
What do you think that shooting that was like? That must have been really pretty weird. Or is everyone just a professional and they're like, hey, we're all naked?
No. They would all be professional. Yeah.
No, I know that.
It's not. I've never like been on in a sex scene because you want like as few people in the room as possible.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's usually a lot of the times like not even the director will be there. I mean, probably for this, since it's a bigger scene, he was. Yeah. But it would be like...
Really? Not even the director generally?
Sometimes no. Sometimes...
They literally want like as few...
Sometimes it will just be the camera and the boom, and the director will
be like...
radio in.
Okay.
And then watch it after. Or... I shouldn't say that. Or he has a monitor outside the room.
Right.
And he's watching it from there.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to just, we were talking about those transitional shots, and just before I forget, like, I remember watching Boogie Nights with our cousin McGraw, and there's one scene, and obviously, what's his name directed that?
Paul Thomas Anderson.
And there's one, because that's early on in his career, and there's one transitional scene where it's the camera is facing from the ceiling to the floor, and you're seeing a cup of coffee being filled.
Okay.
And then that establishes that you're in this new room, and like whoever's about to drink coffee or like serve coffee. It's like it's a transition.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
In other words,
I see what you're. I don't remember what shot you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I've seen Boogie Nights all the way through.
Yeah.
But
my point is, when we were watching it, our cousin McGraw, who for the people, he's also in the film industry. He was like, oh, see, like that's early on in Paul Thomas Anderson's career, because that's a really hacky transition.
Oh.
Like, you know, that's like, you know, so like, what do you think about it? I mean, is that, because that's something that a person who's not in the know would kind of like maybe not think about, is like your transitions. Like with music, for my thing, like with songwriting, there's certain things that are like tropes and that are like hacky. Like, oh, that's like a hack, like,
I don't know.
That's an easy out.
Yeah,
that's like, you know,
the coffee, I don't really know.
Are there famous like transitional kind of like hacks that are like frowned upon?
Not really. I mean, the coffee scene, I'm not sure what you're referring to, so I wouldn't know. I guess
could
just,
you identify it if you saw something? You'd be like, oh, that was like, you know, everybody does that.
Yeah, if it draws attention to itself when it's not supposed to. Like the bathroom cut into the airplane clearly it draws attention to itself, but it's also clearly supposed to draw attention to yourself. She's mid panic attack, and you want to kind of jolt the audience a little bit. It's also just like a very
but so the idea would be is a closing door a trope?
No.
Okay.
You close one door and then you're in a different scene?
No, yeah, exactly. Like, would that be something where it's like, oh yeah, the closing door transition? I don't know if this is a weird thing to harp on. I just find it interesting.
I don't think so.
Yeah. All right.
I couldn't really talk about like transitions that I've seen multiple times that I would call hacky.
Yeah.
I mean, I think kind of just the general rule is just, if you don't want to call attention to a transition, then don't. That's kind of like the general rule with just editing in general, of you want it to be invisible unless like it's something important that people need to pay attention to. Right. Like the scene in the bathroom is jarring. A lot of scenes.
So let me ask
jarring.
you this then. What's the reason for the would you call it the establishing shot, or like when they're traveling to they're off the plane, they're in the car, they're on their way to basically the primary set of the film, which is this, you know, whatever you want to call the land of the cult, and they're driving, and you're getting the driving shot, and it's basically again from kind of like a drone shot almost, and then it flips, and the car is in the sky now.
Yes,
from where you're looking. What's the point of that other than to just disorient and be like, hey, like, something is fucking not right and something's different? Like, what's the point of that? Or is it simply just like it's fucking weird and the whole movie's weird, so like it's just something to kind of throw you off a bit?
Well, I don't think anything is just weird for the point of being weird.
Sure.
In this movie, I think everything, even like the hyper violence, kind of has a point to it. That particular shot I didn't really like. I thought we could have done without it.
I kind of liked it. I don't know why though.
Here's what I see with this shot. You feel like the first couple of scenes when we're in the secular world, and
the sexual world,
and the rest of the movie in the Horror Village, it almost feels like it's on two different planets.
Yeah,
and you feel like we're traveling in like sky to somewhere else, or like the world has flipped. We're on a new world now.
Sure.
And in just the way everything looks, just comparing the two different worlds, the Horga Village, everything's super bright. It like weirdly seems to be daytime all the time. Well, it's North Sweden, right. But even the scenes that take place kind of at night feel like there's light to them, and it's always just like this.
Is there ever a time when it's just the one where she's having the dream where they're in the car? Is
really the only scene that takes place at dark.
Yeah.
And then the beginning, it's like feels like it's almost exclusively at dark. Or just
it's the color is just like sucked out of like it's
even the scenes when it's during the day, like they'll be in a room and none of the lights are on. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that shot, it kind of lets you know that we're in an entirely different planet right now.
Yeah. No, I that was my question was like, that's what I assumed, you know what I mean? But I just wanted to get your take on it.
I didn't like that shot very much. I thought that it calls too much attention to itself. I thought it went on for too long. If you wanted to do a flip and kind of do that and have it, you could do it for just like a very short period. I felt
driving scenes I find are kind of interesting. The choices, we'd have to go back and really look at it, but one that comes to mind is The Shining.
When they're going through,
right.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just that's always just kind of interesting.
Well, I think kind of The Shining starts out with that because this place, the hotel, is just so isolated. So I think having just the credits with like, this is a very long drive of like, we are in the middle of nowhere, and it starts the movie of like that. The credits are going by, so you don't have to worry about like the audience getting bored or anything, and you can have this kind of long driving scene where like we're really getting into the mountains and like we are far away from society.
Also, and you could obviously correct me if I'm wrong here, but I have heard that in the 70s and 80s, like there was more leeway to like have longer shots.
100%. So
I know what I'm talking about.
So with longer shots, they did it more in the 70s because they were shooting on film instead of digital, so you couldn't have as many shots.
Okay, so it's literally just a practical thing.
No, but also if you look at high budget and low budget movies, high budget movie or more mainstream movies usually have a lot of more cuts. And I feel like a lot of it is like if producers feel like a shot has gone on for too long,
people are going to
zone out, so they want to cut as much as possible. With lower budget movies where they allow like more creative freedom, like A24, you can have very long shots. I mean, Uncut Gems is a bad example because they're cutting every 5 seconds because they want that kind of sense of anxiety to it. So, all right, one more point. So since I feel like we're kind of getting to the end of this, back to the anthropology angle of they kind of do not see the danger coming because they feel like they're viewing these people almost like through a plate of glass. Like we're over here and you're over there.
That's a good way of putting it.
And before and after the scene where the two older Horga villagers kill themselves, one, you feel like William Jackson Harper, he says to Pella, are those the two? It's just one line that he says to Pella. So like you can kind of feel that like he knew this was going to happen and didn't do anything to like prevent it because he doesn't really view them as people.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he says that one line. He looks at the.
Are those the two? Meaning
the two older people who are going to
but he still freaks out when it happens.
Well, he kind of is shocked, but you kind of got the sense that you knew that was coming, and you see like the two other friends of the other Horga villager, who the people from England who came, they're freaking out and they're trying to stop it and they're trying to yell at the person like, you don't have to do this, stop, and the anthropologists are kind of just watching and waiting to see what happens.
Wait, say that again. Who's trying to stop it?
The couple that's from England.
Oh
yeah. They're yelling at the person and they're trying to say you don't have to do this, while Christian and I forget William Jackson Harper's character's name, but they're both watching it, kind of just waiting to see what's going to happen. Like,
yeah.
And then the two people kill themselves, and
I didn't like those fucking British people. Not because they're British. Shout out to England. Shout out to my boy Sam.
Florence Pugh is English, and she's
Who's that?
Florence Pugh is Dani.
The main character is English?
Is English, super English. If you've ever seen it,
all right, shout out to her, man. I had no idea. I thought she was American.
She's super. She's like meat pie and jam English. She's like real English.
All right. I mean, if you're gonna do it for real. I don't know what that means. Okay, whatever. I mean, again, I just didn't like those two characters. They were just like dillweeds.
The scene directly after is
what's a dillweed? I've never fucking used that expression in my life.
Dillweed is what you use to make pickles.
Shout out to dillweed.
That's why they call it a dill pickle.
Shout out to dill pickles.
You use British people.
Shout out to British people. We should wrap this thing up.
All right. This is my final. This is the one last thing that I wanted to say. So the scene right after the two older Horga villagers kill themselves is the scene where Christian says, "I want to do my thesis on these people," and it's you talk about like scene placement of just you're getting further into these characters do not view the villagers as human beings, just as subjects to study, of like two people just died in front of them and that's what they're arguing about.
Yeah. Again, I just hate that guy sucks.
He does suck.
The McLovin character, when he pisses on the tree, that was kind of funny. But also like I got to give it to that actor too, because he really portrayed like
Will Porter,
the dumb American, like really well.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I just like I get really like I don't want people to view Americans as dumb, even though like we do a great job of like presenting ourselves that way.
We do. Shout out to America.
Yeah, absolutely. Never forget. I don't know.
All right.
Like
all right. Midsommar.
Anytime 9/11 comes up, it's like, whoa.
All right. So
shine the light.
Midsommar.
Give him the light.
Midsommar. If you like horror movies, you're going to like it. You call
this a horror movie?
I'll call it a horror movie. It's a suspenseful horror movie.
All right, fair enough.
You just like, if you're into like that B movie, that B movie kind of horror fest, but it's on like a bigger budget and kind of glossed over and all that stuff. You'll like it. Ari Aster said to watch it after a breakup. It might help you get over your significant other.
I don't recommend that at all.
I don't know if I would recommend it. I don't know if I'd recommend it either. That's what he says.
Yeah, well, he's obviously a fucked up person.
Well, we're looking at this through the lens of how he would have seen it. This is what he says.
I'm just talking shit at this point. Just having fun. Just rattling off shit talk.
All right, have been Movies by McManus.
You already know.
If you like this, Jesus Christ, Mike. All This has been Movies by McManus. If you like this, check out our YouTube videos where I'll do kind of like shorter breakdowns of movies. Also, check us out on social media at Movies by McManus. I'm your host, Greg. I'm with Mike.
Check us out, Spotify, all that good stuff. He does the short breakdowns like you mentioned, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Have a good night, and don't let any Swedish cults get you.